I'm excited for the Vancouver Canucks 2022-2023 season, I really am, but it's like a weird sort of excitement wherein I know that there are good players that have been added to this team. I know there are good players that have been kept on the team. I know some of the guys that are younger are a little bit older, therefore they should be a bit better. But at the same time, I still feel a tad uneasy. Maybe I'm just traumatized by the Travis Green stint last year, where a team that was so good on paper was performing so poorly for the caliber of talent that they actually had. Maybe I'm just kind of letting everything get to me. Because the way everybody else is talking about it, the way the Canucks themselves are talking about it in their preseason interviews and their media availabilities and everything, the way the conversations are going around about this team makes me a little bit scared. And I think this is more so a fear of my own personally. I don't think this is a fair or rational fear to be having. It's sort of irrational in the fact that I feel like the Vancouver Canucks are really setting themselves up to make something happen this year. Let's go over onto Vancouver Hockey Now, because what Rob Simpson did yesterday was pretty much transcribe all the important quotes that we needed to see. There were interviews done with Bruce Boudreau, there was one done with Miller and OEL, and they talked about a whole bunch of players on the team and the expectations for the hockey team, etc., etc. And as we said, Rob Simpson went out there and collected the good quotes and put them in an article, so the link will be in the description to Vancouver Hockey Now if you want to see everything in and of itself. But the title of this piece kind of goes over how the Canucks seem to be looking at the 22-23 season. The Canucks are anxious. Non-playoffs would be a big disaster. Here's what Bruce Boudreau had to say about the team. You can talk to everyone over the next 2 weeks and they all want to get out of the gate well. The great learning curve on that is that they didn't get off to a great start last year, and they saw what happened and how frustrated they were when they thought they were a playoff team at the end of the year, but they weren't in the playoffs. Boudreau talked about the difficult season and the beginning, the road trip, etc., etc., but earlier in the media chat, Boudreau went as far as to calling the concept of not making the playoffs this year a big disaster. Now, I definitely don't want to discredit Bruce and everything that he did with the Vancouver Canucks when he took over. The Canucks under Boudreau had a record that was like a 100-and-something point pace. It would have been a playoff caliber team had they had the Boudreau stint and record the entire 82-game season, etc., etc. But I don't know. For me, personally, I'm just so traumatized by prior years of Canucks hockey disappointing everybody that even though Boudreau is like, yeah, we need to get off to a good start. Everybody in the room wants to get off to a good start. I'm trying to condition these guys to get off to a good start. I still kind of have my fingernails on my teeth, biting them down like a chipmunk, being like, yeah, well, you don't know what's going to happen, man. We said the same thing last year. Travis Green, he had a team that was supposed to be a lot better, and they absolutely tanked the bed. I'm just traumatized here, man. Maybe there's some sort of part of me that's saying, yeah, well, it's good to say that everything needs to get off to a good start and that it might be a disaster if you don't make the playoffs, but what if it actually does happen? If it does happen, that is the disaster. And what's going to happen then? Somebody's going to get traded? Somebody's going to leave in free agency for free? What's going to happen then, Jim Benning? Oh my goodness, not Jim Benning. No, Patrick Allvin. My gosh. This is what a few other players on the team actually said. Demko said this, which was actually a pretty badass quote if you think about it. We're a group that if we do get in the playoffs, or when we do get in the playoffs this year, we're going to be a hard team to beat. We proved that last year, just so far behind the 8 ball in the push that we were able to make trying to get in last year. It was really inspiring for the city and for the group too, to build confidence in those situations. The article then talks about the defense. OEL said that I love our back end. I thought we grew as a D-core and as a team, and I'm super excited about the opportunity of one of him or Hughes going over to the right. And, you know, I definitely do think the Vancouver Canucks can make the playoffs. They're good enough to do that. They are. Like, I would not be surprised if the end of the season comes along and the Vancouver Canucks are third or maybe second in the division and they actually had a really good season. Let's say Pettersson gets 90 points, Miller gets 90 points, and we have 430 goal scorers. Like, if that happens, I would be ecstatic. I don't know if I'd be too surprised, but I would be ecstatic. It's just, to me, the range of possibilities still has that very down in the dumps possibility attached to it, where it's like, yeah, okay, they could go out there and they could have a really great season. They could get 105 points and they could have 4 30-goal scorers, but if it just doesn't work like it did last year at the start of the year, like, say goodbye to the season, man. Say goodbye to some of the tenures of the guys on this team. I don't know. I'm like, man, I think you've been sort of seeing this, right, over the past few years. Not even years. Nah, the 2020 bubble was really good, but like the past few weeks especially. When it comes to talking about players on the Canucks, like, oh, Elias Pettersson is a good enough player to maybe get 100 points. I would go out there and make a video talking about how I wouldn't be surprised if he tanked the bed. Same with Podkolzin, same with the defense and everybody else. Like, maybe I'm just such a bad Canucks fan because I'm so scarred by the past that I always default to, okay, what is the worst realistic scenario that's able to actually happen? Like, sure, worst case scenario would be they go 0-82, but that's of course not realistic. What's the actual realistic worst case scenario here? The team completely craps the bed. Andrei Kuzmenko only gets 5 goals in the year. Ilya Mikheyev does not really do anything aside from being a good penalty killer. Like, this is what JT Miller said about Ilya Mikheyev. He has kind of got another gear out there. I've been caught by him several times so far, so it's pretty humbling. It's just awesome now that he's on our side, and he's just a guy who can push back the defense with and without the puck and create bad gaps for the other teams. I've played with some very fast players over the years, and it's really hard to play against when you have guys like that on the ice. And I know, that's like the best case scenario. If he goes out there, gets 25 goals, amazing. I wouldn't necessarily be too surprised. It's just, with all the talk here about Boudreau and Demko, yeah, we gotta make the playoffs. We're going to make the playoffs. If we don't make the playoffs, it's a failure. There's still that little Canucks fan in my head that gives me a reason to worry that if they don't actually go out there and fulfill the expectations that have been set upon them, we could be in for, like, worst case scenario, trade everybody, blow it all up, I don't know, whatever. I'm a bad Canucks fan, you know? Like, I think I could make a realistic predictions video that kind of encapsulates everything good about the team. Oh, Andrei Kuzmenko gets X amount of goals, Mikheyev gets X amount of goals, Miller gets X amount of points, Quinn Hughes gets X amount of points. I could go out there and make a pretty realistic video about that, and I could honestly, like, rationally say the Vancouver Canucks could very well get 100 points this season as a team, but there still is the part in my mind that says, what if it doesn't happen? What if? Like, I'm so worried about this season, man, especially with all the drama with JT Miller signing the extension, pretty much putting the team in win-now mode. Like, they have to be good. If they're not good, then what? This is the beginning of the end if they're not good. They have to actually make an impact here, especially when you still have Demko on the contract he's on right now, like 4 more years at $5 million. Like, that's a top 10 goalie in the league for sure, top 5 goalie in the league on a good day, signed to a $5 million AAV. And he's saying you gotta go out there and make the playoffs. Like, I know 2020 happened, but I'll say this again. The 2020 team was so good with the depth they had on defense and the scoring throughout the lineup. Tyler Toffoli, hell, even Tyler Mott and Beagle got on the board. Brandon Sutter, I think, scored a goal or two. And then on defense, you had Tanev and Stetcher, both very good right-handed options. And, like, I don't know. I think the team can go out there and make the playoffs, but how far they go, I guess we'll see. Talk in the comments with all your thoughts about the entire Vancouver Canucks expectations they're setting out for themselves and why I'm kind of panicking here. Is it rational for me to do that? I don't think it is, but I think it's sort of an indicative quality of my fandom of this team, wherein when good things happen, I get so happy about it because I'm just not really used to good things happening. You saw my reaction when the Canucks beat the Blues in the first round of the playoffs in 2020. Like, I almost cried on the microphone, man. That was crazy. People were like, oh, Lego, you're so cringe. Why are you talking about it like that, man? It's just a hockey game. And it's like, yeah, but this is the team that I've been cheering for half of my life, admittedly. I'm only 22 years old. I started cheering in 2011, but I don't know. I like this team a lot, and I'm just kind of worried for them. That's all. Talk in the comments your thoughts about the Vancouver Canucks and the expectations. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj 99, and bye.